It's recording. Should be good. And get back to this. There we go. Perfect. All right. Oh, and I can send. Oh shit. Okay. So look, I'm like a little kid. Okay, if I see a button, I'm clicking on it. So.
We'll go for it. Why
Oh,
not?
that's funny. Oh, it has a record button down here as well.
It does.
Oh my God. I wonder how that works. I'll have to. Well, anyway, I know
I,
the other one's recording. I will definitely have to test this out and test that record feature and see if that works, you know, easier than what I'm using. Cool. Okay. So, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm Eric, obviously, and you are Barbara.
Yeah. So some people call me Barbara, some people call me Basia, depending on the group of friends. So I don't mind either to be used, whatever you prefer.
Now, what's the other one?
Basia. So
Basha.
it's basically an abbreviation for Barbara in Polish because that's my heritage. So some
Yeah.
people use that. But yeah, people call me Barbara mostly.
Okay. I didn't know how to pronounce it because you sent me a text earlier in the week, or I guess earlier in the week when we were setting this up, saying because I was calling you Angelhunt or Angel or something like that from your Discord or no, your Instagram call sign or tag, I
Yeah.
guess.
I use it for social media, and to be honest, I started using this when I got into gaming, and I just kind of transferred it onto Instagram because I couldn't think of anything else, so it kind of stuck.
Oh yeah. Well, no, that's fine. So yeah, when you sent me the message, it was you said, well, my name's Barbara, and you spelled it out. I didn't know how to pronounce it, so it's Basha.
Yeah, you
Gotcha.
actually say it very well. Most people can't pronounce it properly in the
Oh,
UK, so
well, thank you. Yeah. Well, that's cool. I'm glad you're able to get on here.
yeah, I'm glad we found mutually good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because it's nighttime where you're at. You guys are in the UK, right?
Yes, it's 8 o'clock over here. What time is it in South Carolina?
Three. Well, 3:20 now. Yeah.
In the morning or?
No, in the afternoon.
Oh, in the afternoon. Okay,
Yeah, yeah. So I'm only 5 hours behind you guys.
oh, I see. Okay, that's not too bad. So,
Uh-uh.
technically your Friday, well, the weekend is just about to start for you.
There you go. That's why I'm drinking right now.
I've got my can. I haven't
Oh, what
opened
you
it
got?
yet. Well, it's called Galaxy Fog. It's a craft beer produced by Burnt Mill. It's a small brewery from Ipswich, southeast of England, so not too far from me. Because I'm based in London, so yes, I'm very, very south.
Oh, okay. Well, cheers to you. Cheers to the
Cheers,
weekend.
cheers to the weekend. Happy Friday, as we say.
Absolutely.
So, have you got any plans for this upcoming weekend?
Yeah, I don't. So I've got to actually work tomorrow, which just came up in the last like half hour. So normally I'm off the weekends, but they
Hmm.
asked me to go in and finish up a couple of projects on two different apartments that they want to hurry up and rent out. So I do. I flip houses, and then I do property management. So I'll do all the maintenance, and
Hmm.
when somebody moves out, I go in and paint and patch, get everything ready, or we do a full remodel. So luckily these other two units are just a paint and patch kind of thing. So we're gonna scrape in, kind of cleaning it up. But the last two ones, two that we did, were full renovations. So we go in and rip everything out. So down to the concrete floor, the walls, the whole kitchen, bathrooms, everything. So carpet, everything gone. And then we put everything new back in. So it's a lot of work.
Yeah,
But
sounds like it.
Yeah, but these two are just kind of quick, fix them up a little bit, and then now we did put yesterday. I put in a new toilet. I kind of redid the bathroom, new vanity, lights, ceiling fans throughout the house, new lights in the downstairs living room. But the kitchen we left alone, which was great. We didn't have to rip all that stuff out. So, because we were getting ready for the weekend, and then Monday we started a different job
Hmm.
in a different city. So they wanted to hurry up and get these other two units done. So we didn't finish the second thing because we finished our part. Well, then they came in and said, well, now we're thinking about doing more. So I said, well, I'll just come back in the morning and do it. So I'm going to work tomorrow. So
That's fair enough. Sounds very
yeah,
busy.
not a big deal. So I usually have weekends off. Last weekend, we went to a Milsim, about 2.5 hour drive away, and we stayed for the whole 3 day weekend. Slept in a tent, on the field, and then these guys played, and I went and as a photographer, so I just took pictures and filmed.
I saw some of your videos from that Milsim, and I have to say it looked really, really interesting. And I wanted to ask you a bit more about this because, especially the night ops looked quite impressive. And I was wondering, because I looked up where it was, and the place was called Government Training Institute. Is that right? And is this
Yes,
the Department of Defense ground, or what is it?
that's a great question. So I actually don't know if if it's federal, like if the federal government owns it, or if it's if it's still owned by the state. So the what it used to be was a nuclear, some type of nuclear facility. It wasn't like they didn't have like a reactor there. It was years ago. It's pretty old, but they had it was a refining
Hmm.
place or whatever. So I think they would refine like uranium and that kind of thing for nuclear reactors here in South Carolina. But I don't know if who actually owns it, but I know that they use it as a training ground for military, like special forces,
Hmm.
not like the big groups of military, but like smaller groups, specialty groups, SWAT teams, for like police and stuff like that. The FBI uses it for a training facility, and then smaller units of the military. And then they use it, they rent it out to airsoft events, a couple times, whatever, a few times a year. So it's pretty cool. The sad part was I was not able to get in there, like get into the action
Get
during the night
inside.
game.
Hmm. Oh,
Yeah,
I see.
yeah, during the night game, and I wasn't able to go inside. Now they would allow me inside. I just couldn't walk well enough to get in there. So, and then at night, uh, it's not a good idea if I'm trying to walk around where I can't see the ground. I'll be falling down. So I didn't. I kind of stood back away from
Hmm.
where they were, where they were fighting. But so yeah, I my legs are still a little shaky, I guess, from when I was, ill. I was sick a few years ago. For a couple years, I was paralyzed, and so I'm still not fully recovered. So I walk pretty slow, and my footing's not real great. So they were like, "Oh, we'll escort you into the building. We'll watch while you get in there,
Hmm.
so you can film inside." I'm like, "Nope, no," because there's all kind of like beams and like steel beams, and it's kind
Yeah,
of
a lot
when
of
they
trip hazards and such.
right. Oh
Yeah.
yeah. And then there's like these giant areas that like trenches inside where there's a bunch of pipes, that they ran through the floor. Well, all this trash when they cleared out of there years ago, all these steel beams and rebar and all these things that are sticking up inside the trenches. Areas where I could fall in pretty easily. I'm like, no, I'll just film out here.
That's fair
So,
enough, to be honest.
oh yeah.
Yeah, better safe than sorry.
Yeah, well, and I didn't want to get in the middle of these guys, and kind of stop them from or get in the way while they're trying to, run to another spot or get the other team
Mm.
or whatever. So that happened once when I was outside in the area I was in because I was trying to get some action shots. You can
Mhm.
see right here, I actually still got a little bit of a mark
I
left
can
there.
see.
Yeah, so I had a plate carrier on that came up to about there. It had a big press sign on it and then on the back as well. So guys came up and I'm right in the middle of two groups and I'm trying to like back up and but I was, filming both sides and one guy came around the corner and didn't see me and I just got lit up right up the side and just kind of went up, and I
It's
didn't have
always
anything on my face.
it's
So
always the
like,
spot that's uncovered. You can be completely geared up head to toe, and they always the BB finds the way.
isn't that crazy? I swear, yesterday, I just did a podcast yesterday afternoon around this time with a girl in South Africa.
Oh wow,
She
great.
was saying the exact same thing. Because we were talking about, I think we were talking about something where like, she wears a ball cap instead of a helmet, and then goggles, and then the mesh wire mesh mask. And she's like, I only have this much of a spot open, but that's where I get hit. Like right in this little tiny spot or whatever, or this little tiny spot that's open here. It's like it always happens, like a BB magnet.
Mm, exactly. I
It's
have to
pretty
say,
funny.
I don't really cover my face much. I use gum shields because repairing teeth is expensive, so I take care of that.
Right.
But to be fair, I don't really get a lot of headshots. When I do, they're not serious. But even though I don't really wear anything except my gum shields, because I don't like the mesh, I don't like masks or anything.
Yeah.
Obviously, goggles are everybody wears them because we have to. But other than that, the gum shield, that's it.
Well, now that you said it, the next time you play, you're in big trouble because somebody's going to find, that BB's going to find your cheek or
Yes,
something.
I jinxed it. I probably jinxed
Oh
it.
yeah. We were talking about that as well because she was like, at the field she plays at, if it's somebody's birthday, the whoever's on the field, they line up in two lines, and you have to walk between them, and they shoot you from the side as your birthday present. And I was
Lovely.
like, well, on your birthday, just make sure you wear like two or three long sleeve shirts, wear a bunch of padding. She said, yeah, that's fine, but that's not where the BB's going to hit. It's going to hit in that little tiny spot that is not covered.
Exactly that.
uh, it's so funny. It's funny how that's like a common thing for anyone that plays airsoft, no matter everyone I've talked to around the world, South Africa, UK, Canada, Netherlands. I mean, everyone I've talked to has been the same thing. Like,
Mm,
I don't know, I wear all this stuff and I turned my head for a second and it was just exposed right here and I got shot.
that's the way.
It is. Yeah, and I think GoPros are the same way. Like if you have a camera or a scope cam.
I had one. I think it's still there somewhere. I was trying to film some events. To be honest, it was more for myself because I like kind of, looking at videos later and the thing is I stopped because I realized it distracts me from gameplay and I just constantly worried whether it's on, whether it's off, and then at the end of the day, the sort of games I play, they're not very. I mean, they can be action packed, but for the action to come, sometimes you have to wait many hours. And let's face
Right.
it, people will not want to see, footage from sitting in bushes for a few hours, setting a trap, or an ambush or something, because this is the sort of stuff I do at some games. So yeah, I just decided I don't know. There's a lot of people who do a lot of amazing footage on YouTube, and I don't think the sort of events I attend always lend themselves to it. They probably do, but you would need to spend a lot of time editing and finding those pieces with which people would find interesting. And I found that it just distracts me from playing,
Gotcha.
and I have to be very focused sometimes. So
Right. Well, not only that, like if you even if you're trying to get some good footage, you still want to be able to play good, because if all your footage, if you keep getting shot because you're worried about, the camera, all your footage is going to be walking back to spawn.
Exactly.
That's not good either. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
so it was a very short-lived experience with an action cam.
Yeah, it's a lot of work. I don't think a lot of people realize how much work goes into it when when we watch these Novrich videos, or Kicking Mustang, or these guys that are Swamp Sniper, all these guys that are have really good game footage, Airsoft Alphonse, they put a lot of time into editing, and into prep, like making sure the camera's on, making sure they have a bunch of batteries or a charger hooked up somewhere that it stays on the whole time. And then they have to edit all that stuff out, the downtime.
I mean, it does take a lot of work, and I do admire people's, the time and effort they put in. That's great, but I don't think that's for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's I don't think people realize until they do it themselves that, like, oh, okay, yeah, this is going to be I'm not doing this. You get 8 hours of footage and you can only use about 2 minutes of it, So
do you have a camera that allows you to film at night? Because I was just wondering, just kind of going back to the event you've been to last weekend. Do you have equipment which allows you to film in low light?
No, So all the videos that I did, if you saw some of the videos on Instagram, or even I think I did a little bit of live stream on our YouTube channel while I was there, just kind of update when I was in an area where there was like Wi-Fi. All of those, and if you went to our YouTube channel, every single video on our channel and pictures and videos on our Instagram has been taken with my Samsung Galaxy phone.
Ah. Oh, that's pretty good.
Yeah, so when we first started the channel, we were looking into, like, a better camera, and so they ordered one. Me and the guys ordered one. It was okay, and it was, fairly big. At the time, I honestly could not hold it. I couldn't hold it in a position because it was a lot heavier than a phone. So I didn't have the hand strength to hold it and film, or hold it and take a picture. And then we put it on a tripod, and it was real clunky for me to hold and move it around and whatever. So I was like, you know what, just send it back. Well, I'll just use my phone until whatever. So yeah, I've been using my phone the whole time.
Well, to be fair, the quality is pretty good, so why not?
Thank you.
A friend of mine got something that's quite popular called Psionics Aurora. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's like it's like a night vision camera. It's a digital device, which is it's not too expensive, but some people used it instead of night vision. But to be honest, it's okay if it's not too dark. And he was recording at the last event we've been to, and like at dusk it was amazing because it's got color, and in kind of low light, but not entirely dark. Basically when there's still a little bit of light from the sunset, it's fine. But as soon as it got really dark, it was absolutely horrendous. A lot of noise, and he couldn't see very much, so it had its limitations, but I think it's quite an interesting piece of kit just to try out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've not looked into that because, like I said, this when we went to this event this last weekend, that was my first event that I've gone to with these guys. So I didn't even know there was going to be any kind of nighttime stuff. I didn't know the itinerary of when they were going to be playing. I thought it was going to be mostly like just, Saturday and Sunday. And although we get there on Friday night, but I think the night game on Friday night is like a separate ticket and, kind of a separate thing. But so we did the Saturday and Sunday.
Hmm.
And then when we got there, they were like, "Yeah, we're gonna play all day Saturday." Well, then they're gonna play from like 8 until midnight Saturday night. And I was like, "Oh, okay." But yeah, so I didn't have anything set up for any of that. I didn't have anything to record with anyway. But the phone actually, like when it's like what you were saying, when it's kind of the sun's starting to go down,
Hmm.
even when it's still like dusk, you know, the sun's already gone down past the trees and all that. I was taking pictures and it looked like daytime. You know, the camera
Hmm.
adjusts really well with just a little bit of light. But once it was completely dark, nothing. You know?
Exactly. That was
Oh
his
yeah,
experience. It was absolutely nothing, and
yeah,
a lot of noise,
right.
digital noise in the background.
Yeah, I have a friend actually that I've talked to on here, a handful of guys that they run the night vision goggles
Hmm.
for their gameplay, you know, because they do a lot of night stuff. And
I
there's
do
a
that
couple
a lot as
guys,
well.
yeah, a couple guys have those like where they can record through it. So have you used those or have you tried those out?
I haven't actually tried any recording or any cameras for night vision, but a friend of mine is working on like a 3D print thing that you can put on night vision, and he was meant to finish this off and lend it to us to trial out. I think a couple of weeks ago, but he didn't get to it. But I think there's things that people make themselves, like using 3D printers.
Right.
Sadly, I haven't had a chance to try it myself yet.
Okay.
But apparently, it works well, and it doesn't impede the vision. Because I was worried, how is it going to work where you have a bit of camera kind of stuck in front of your lenses? Like, is it going
Right.
to interfere? But apparently not. So I'm quite
Huh.
keen to give it a go one day.
Right. Yeah, those would be cool. I know one of the guys I talked to, he said he was setting up to get some kind of recording device for him to do through the night vision. So that'll be cool. Now, are you so you're in the UK? But you said are you from Poland?
Yes, I was born in Poland and lived there until I was 14. So, yeah, people can probably tell by my accent that it's not native. And I moved to London, and I've been living here for 21 and a half years. So pretty much most of my life.
Yeah. Well, how do you like
Um,
it?
well, obviously I do, because I'm
You're
still
still here,
here.
right?
Yeah. I mean, it's obviously it was quite stressful, especially if you're quite young, and when you move abroad, it's a little bit of a change. But I think it's you get used to it, you make new friends, and yeah, you start a new life in a way, and still keep in touch with friends back in the home country, visit family, and also yeah, it's fine. I'm not complaining.
So
Was
you were a young teenager. You had so you had to switch schools. Was it a
yeah, I
big
did.
difference? Did you notice a big
Yeah.
difference with like the teaching style, or I guess the school style between
Uh,
both?
yeah, I think the school style was probably the biggest shock for me, because back in Poland we don't have single sex schools. We have boys and girls in the same school. We don't have uniforms, and England is completely different. Like, you have single sex schools, not all of them. Some of them are mixed,
Hmm.
but the one I had to go to was just girls, and we had a uniform which was absolutely horrendous, and it was just so hard for me to get used to having to wear a uniform. I wouldn't mind something, smart, like a shirt or trousers, or something black and white, some sort of like office style.
Yeah.
But it was like dark green and tartan. It was like literally like out of some sort of Harry Potter book. Luckily, it was just 3 years, and then when I went to sixth form, which is like high school, things kind of, back to mixed school, no uniform, all that. But the first 3 years were interesting.
I'm sure. Well, I've seen those movies. There's been a few movies out where they show the well, and the one I can think of is Fast and Furious.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen those? You know,
Yeah.
I think it was Tokyo Drift, where he gets sent over to Japan or whatever, and he starts going to a school that's real strict like that with the uniform, and
Yeah.
he's like, we're not used to this.
Exactly that. That's exactly my experience. I'm not used to that.
Oh yeah. Now
Yeah,
so what brought your parents brought you over to UK? What brought
correct.
them from Poland to UK?
Yeah, so it was my father's job. It was a temporary position, and he since moved away to another
Uh,
country. And because his contract finished just before I went to university, it made sense for me to stay. And yeah, once you stay for uni, it's difficult to, you already have your life here,
right.
you already have friends, and
Mm-hmm.
you don't really want to go for another change.
Sure. Yeah, once you get settled in, it's hard to move, especially to a different country.
Mm.
If you move into a different apartment or house or something, it's different, but changing countries is, especially when the culture is different or whatever. Now, do you still have family back in Poland, you said?
I do, yeah. I've got my
Yeah.
cousins. My father is finally back after his many placements. Yeah, still my grandmom is still alive, thankfully, and yeah, still have some friends from even before I moved. So visit them. Actually, going next week and for a few days.
Oh, okay. So is it a long trip
Yeah,
to go
just
from?
no, it's literally 2 hours on a plane.
Oh, that's not bad.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
alright. Yeah, it's alright.
Okay. Yeah, that's not bad at all.
Yeah.
So
Uh,
the state that we're in, South Carolina, is like a 9 hour drive from where I grew up. So we grew up in my wife and I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, and then her parents moved down here like 30 years ago. So we've been down here 15 years, raised our kids down here and stuff. But we go back to Ohio, to visit, and when we go back, we have like all the kids and
hmm.
everyone goes. It's a huge carload of people, so we don't usually get plane tickets because there's like 12 of us, and we'll drive up there. But I hate that long drive. But my mom's always asking if we're going to move back to close to her, and we're like, no, we're trying to get her moved down here because where I'm from, where I grew up, it's really cold weather in the winter, snow, cold. It is, yeah, it's not fun. Oh, there it
Oh,
goes.
something froze. Yeah, I can see again.
Yeah.
Is it still recording? Just making
Hmm.
sure. Okay,
Yeah.
brilliant.
So when I go in and check, yeah. So this software, the software I use to record is a separate piece. So no matter what I'm using to do the call on, it'll keep running no matter what. So that's a good thing. And then, like I said, if there's a lag or something, I'll just cut that piece out and whatever. Because a lot of these, when I try to make them, I try to edit them for the audio because I
Hmm.
put all these on a podcast app, Spotify, iTunes, all that kind of stuff. So I'll take the audio off, put it on those. So when I edit, if there's long spots of, where we're missing, I just cut it out.
That's good. Okay, just checking.
Oh yeah, yeah. I try to make it really relaxed because we have, uh, different things happen. I know this one I was doing with one of the guys in the UK just like a month and a half ago. I warned him in the beginning. I was like, listen, my granddaughter's here. She might bust through the door and come in here and try to like, Papa, let me see this, and she'll climb up on this desk and get right in the camera. So she's 3. So, and sure enough, like 20 minutes later, that happened. So I go in there, a lot of times I'll cut those out. I think that one actually I kind of just left most of it in. But anyway, but yeah, anything like that. If somebody has to get up and go to the bathroom, they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, can you pause this? Because I really have to go pee." I'm like, "Okay, no problem." It's not a big deal. So, especially when a lot of people I talk to were both drinking on here, and
It's Friday night in the UK. It's nearly 9 o'clock. It's a well-deserved beer
Right.
after a long week.
What kind of work do you do now? You say you work from home?
I'm project manager in construction. So I'm
Mm,
in similar, well, same industry, I guess, as you, just a different job.
right.
And yeah, I'm a client-side project manager, which means that I have to deal with, various stages of the project. Because I think if you work for a contractor, you basically are involved purely in the construction activities and the whole, basically from the moment you sign the contract with whoever. And my role is slightly wider because I get involved at a very early stage and need, have to appoint the whole design team, all the architects, engineers, all that. The whole team basically, and yeah, and there's a lot more involved around budget planning and getting approvals and so on. I suppose it's slightly different in the US because in the UK we work based on REBA stages, Royal Institution of Architects, of Royal Architects. Sorry. Oh, Royal Institution of British Architects. Sorry.
Oh, that's okay. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yeah, so yeah, we work based on this, and this is how the projects are scheduled. So I think it's probably different in the US, but I think the process is probably really similar.
It is. It is. Yeah, it's similar. There's a if we're doing now the work that I do, most of the things we do, like if we're flipping a house, like an actual home, it is it's an easier process because most of the time where the home is located, we don't have to get permits. We don't have to do a lot of paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
So once the guy we work with who contracts us, once he buys that property, he'll go in and mark off like, okay, rip this wall down, do this, we'll go through a walkthrough, go through everything he wants us to do, and then we just start. So now on the some of these apartments or smaller houses that we do in these historic districts. So sometimes there's parts of the city will be classified as a historic district, and that requires a lot of permits, a lot of inspections, and a lot of prep work before we can actually go in there and do anything.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, because they want to kind of maintain the structure of the house and the outside and how it looks for that historic, area. So there's things we cannot touch or do or whatever. So
it's exactly the same here in the UK, and I think these jobs are really interesting. I actually have one going at the moment, just preparing to start. Which is really fascinating because, like, even if you have, obviously, we have to apply for, we call it listed building consent from the council, from the heritage team, and sometimes they, basically have a set of conditions, like you cannot use second-hand clay to make tiles. You have to have a new clay because one of the principles of conservation is such you're not supposed to be fooling people that you are basically once it's finished it needs to be obvious that it's a new installation rather than something dated. You're not allowed to age materials. Which is quite interesting. It usually looks horrible because it really stands out comparing to all this, original fabric. But it is one of the principles of conservation, which is quite fascinating.
Yeah, we run into those kind of rules too. Every once in a while we'll have those where we see these like, oh, you can't do this because, it's strange how these laws come to be. When you're like, well, it doesn't make sense. Like it would be better this way or whatever, but I definitely understand the inspections or the permits required for structural stuff. So like stairs, framing, the floor, because, there's been a lot of things that have collapsed or people fell through or whatever because they didn't build it right. So I understand those kind of things, but the stuff that's just cosmetic, just for the looks on the inside or outside, I don't see why there needs to be a rule for it.
Well, there's a lot of rules, and some make sense, some make a little bit less sense.
Yeah.
But that's me. I'm heavily involved in all the paperwork, so
Well, my son is one of my sons is a project manager for a construction company.
Oh,
So
brilliant.
yeah, he knows exactly what you're talking about because when we get together, because actually we'll be seeing them tonight. Later on, we're going to take our
Mm.
granddaughter back to their house because they only live like 15 minutes away. So we'll always invite them over like on a Friday night or something. And he's like, nope, because at the end of the week, man, I go home because he's getting all these calls from the
Yeah.
builder, from his boss, from the client, the customer who's ordered the house or who's going
Mm.
to buy the house or whatever. Like he's kind of handling all these things, and then of course you know how it is in construction. Most things don't go as planned, and most things don't finish on time.
Well,
So
that's why we need it, basically. That's why our jobs
exactly,
are.
that's what you're there for,
That's
to
what
make
we're
sure.
there for, to deal with problems. And you can
Yes.
imagine, I can completely sympathize with him because it's exactly how I feel at the end of a hard week. I mean, you feel accomplishment, you feel like, great, I've done something, I fixed things, but sometimes it's not so straightforward and things can be a bit less positive. But
Sure. Oh yeah.
it's mostly fine. I think you just get used to it, and things surprise you less and less with years in the
Right.
industry.
Now, have you been doing that for a while?
Mm, I've been with my company 10 years,
Oh, okay.
and I did project work before that as well. So yeah,
Okay.
about a decade.
Yeah. So you enjoy it though?
Yeah, I do. Sometimes I think we all have days when we think, what the hell am I doing?
Yeah.
Considering there's a lot. I
What
mean,
can I do?
people have a lot of really interesting jobs, and I always envy people, especially who work in, Airsoft, for example. I watched your podcast with Blue Mag Airsoft, for example.
Mm.
That was this week. This week, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
really interesting to see people actually doing, really, really interesting things for a living. And sometimes I think, why can't it be me? But at the same time, I think my job is interesting too, despite frustrating moments. So I think I'll stick around.
Yeah. It's I guess even if you're in any kind of job, gets boring after the first, 3 or 4 months. Once you get settled into that job and you understand, like once all the excitement of learning this new thing or meeting all these new people or whatever,
Mm.
once that kind of, starts getting old, then you're like, okay, okay, now it's just kind of, I'm just going to work.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well, this is why we have our hobby for. So
absolutely.
yeah. Yeah, how come you? I think you did touch on this when speaking to Blue Microsoft. You mentioned you started with this to basically have something to do. I was wondering why specifically Airsoft? Why? What attracted you to this
Yeah, well, that's a
hobby?
great question. And that, so, uh, before I started the Airsoft channel, I was coming out of being paralyzed. So I was looking for something to do. So I started two other YouTube channels before the Airsoft one, just for something to do. So I started the first one. It was really just for me and my family, like my mom and sisters that live, hours away, to update them with like videos of, our kids or sporting events, that kind of thing. I was like, oh, I'll go ahead and edit it,
Hmm.
put it on there, so just for them to see. Well, then I started a. Uh, I still couldn't go to work, but I wouldn't apply for government assistance for like disability because I'm stubborn and I don't want help. So I said, well, I'll do something
I
else.
get it.
Yeah.
I'm similar.
So, yeah. Right.
I
And
haven't had the same, health problems as you, but I'm a bit like that. Very
yeah,
stubborn.
for sure. Like I would imagine, most people I've talked to are like that. They're like, I want to figure something out for myself, and that's kind of where the second channel came from, was a review channel. So I saw these review videos on YouTube where electronics and kitchenware and all kind of stuff. So I didn't have the money to go buy a bunch of new stuff to review. so I'm literally looking around the house like, man, I got a bunch of stuff in here. I don't know. I'll just review a spatula or a frying pan. So, so I started the second channel as a review channel to kind of get some kind of revenue going. You know, I didn't know how long it would take. I didn't know whatever. But that channel was the first one that I really looked into, like how YouTube worked and that kind of thing for getting views or whatever. But so we started, me and my son, I grabbed one of my sons. I was like, hey, let's do a review channel. Let's review this. He's like, what are we going to review? I don't know. A blender, the frying pan. Let's grab something out of the kitchen. So that's kind of where we did that. Well, then, and I was spending a lot of time editing and filming. And we did a bunch of videos. I had two of my kids in the videos doing all kind of different stuff. And, well, then two of my older sons started playing Airsoft. One of their friends came over, got them into it. So this is just, you know, I was already doing this other review channel. Well, I was like, hey, let me film what you guys are doing because that looks cool, you know? So then, because they would take the guns out in the backyard and shoot, you know, just target practice. And so I started filming that. Well, originally that was actually going to go on the review channel. Well, then I was like, well, you guys are getting enough stuff. Let me do an Airsoft channel. That's kind of how we transitioned from that. And then once I started doing that, and this is what I was telling Austin at Blue Mag, I started getting all kind of comments like right away. Like people were actually interactive on the videos. I'm like, because in the review stuff, you don't like, you'll get a comment that says, hey, nice blender, or thanks for the, you know.
Yeah, like really fascinating comment. I mean, thrilling.
I mean, you can't, yeah, there's no like sense of community with, you know, like people that are interacting with those review videos. But the Airsoft thing was just like this flood of people like, hey, and, you know, I'm in the house all day, every day. So I'm starting to have somebody to talk to. I'm like commenting back and, you know, responding. And then soon after we started the Discord thing, and then we started talking through there. So I kind of just got swept up in this community of airsofters. I was like, wow, man, these guys are awesome. Like, this is really cool. Like, I haven't met anyone through my experience, through my personal experience, that's like an asshole in airsoft, you know, like everyone's pretty cool. So that, and then I just started getting more and more into it. And we just had a blast, you know, doing it.
Oh, it sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, it's definitely a nice transition from kitchenware to. I mean, it's such a contrast. You know,
Oh, big time. And I'm going to tell you, those reviews were painful for me because I don't like cooking. I don't like so getting a pan out and having to cook eggs or something. I'm like, man, this is like a job. Like, I hate this.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. But now the airsoft stuff is like, man, this is cool. Okay, this is fun. Let's go shoot some cans or targets, or let's go try out this, you know, gun or whatever, you know, so it's pretty cool.
So do you have other people involved in what you're doing? Because I know you basically doing the podcast, but you mentioned there's a group of people you run with. And you film them. Are they all like your colleagues, part
correct.
of the initiative? Okay.
Yeah. So when we so the two of the guys on our YouTube channel are my sons, my two older sons. So my wife and I have 5 kids. We have 3 boys and 2 girls. And so my 2 older boys are the ones that started playing airsoft 3 years ago. They're in their 20s, and so they started playing. And then their good friend, one of their best friends, is the one that got them started into it. So, and he lives like 10 minutes away. So he'll come over, and this is how it started with these guys. He'll come over and say, hey, let's go to this field, or hey, let's go try out this thing. And I was like, oh, what do you got? Here, show me before you leave. Let me film it. You know, that was it was just spontaneous. And then, so these guys, so we all 4 started the channel. So if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see the banner, like the YouTube banner. I'm not in the picture because I was always on the, you know, behind the scenes, you know, behind the camera. So, so I put those guys in the picture, and that's who TriFecta Airsoft is Colton, Christian, and JP.
Hmm.
So
Oh, and you.
yeah, and then me doing well. The podcast thing came up spontaneous as well because we were putting out a lot of videos all the time on our channel. Well, then a year ago, whatever, these guys got busy, things happened, and then it was hard for us all to get together
Mm.
to do a video again. So, and then I started working as well. I was able, well enough to get out of the house, so I started working, and so I just didn't have the energy to do as many videos as we were doing in the beginning. Well, then I'm like, man, we went, I don't know, weeks without a video, and I said, well, let's do I can do a podcast because I love talking to people. And then it's kind of just, honestly, that was like 8 months ago, and it just kind of spilled, like snowballed from there. And so now I'm just like, I reached out to a bunch of people, and some of them, want to do the podcast. Some of them aren't comfortable doing it. But most people I've talked to are excited about doing it, and it's their first time being on a
Mhm.
podcast. So,
Same here.
yeah, well, great. Yeah.
My friends were surprised. I agreed because it's really out of character for me to do anything kind of well, I guess except Instagram, but that's just photos and like my collection of memories and games I played. But yeah, I'm generally quite introvert. You probably can't tell, but
I cannot. No, you're doing
no,
great.
I'm quite introvert, and
Okay.
yeah, and my friends were like really shocked. I agree, but I thought, do you know, why not? Why not? I've watched a few of your podcasts just to get an idea,
Okay.
and yeah, and yeah, some very good conversations and
Thank you.
interesting topics. So I thought, well, let's do something different.
Yeah, it was so the way that I never really thought about doing a podcast with anyone outside of like our core group of people that followed us from like the beginning of our channel. And all those guys were on our Discord, so I'd always talk with them and whatever. So we were doing podcasts with them. And then uh I always go through and check like new people that join the Discord. So I don't know, 2 months ago, I saw I'm clicking through new members, and I'm like, oh, and sometimes people will put their social or their all their different socials,
Hmm.
whatever, social media stuff on their profile on Discord. So I'll look at that, and I'm like, oh, this person has a YouTube channel. So it was a girl in the UK. Uh, Anglefield Echo was the name of her YouTube channel,
Hmm.
and so I sent her a message on there. I'm like, oh, this is cool. So I watched a couple of her videos. I was like, man, I would love to do a podcast with somebody like that. I don't know anything about gameplay, if it's any different, like in the UK. I don't know. I'd like to find out. So I sent her a message. Honestly, didn't expect a response. I didn't know. And I'm like, hey, I'll just whatever. So she responded back. We did a podcast. And since then, it's been kind of like a lot of different people from the UK. Like I said, a couple days ago, South Africa, all over the place that I've been, kind of reaching out to and getting responses back. Like, hey, I'd like to. There's actually a handful of people that have responded back to me that are in different countries, Brazil, Russia, and they actually want to be on the podcast, but they don't speak English, and I don't speak those languages. So unfortunately, I would love to, but it would take me quite a while probably to learn. I don't know. I'd
Sounds
probably
like
learn a couple words.
it sounds like you need an interpreter.
Yeah, I was actually trying to figure out because I just got a message back today from a girl in Brazil saying I would love to be on, but I don't speak enough English to be on. So I was like, man, there's got to be a way. Maybe we can have a third person in here, because on Discord, you can actually, on a video call, you can have up to like 20
Mm.
people in the call. So, and I'm sure on here, I see a little add participant, thing. I'm sure you could have it on here as well. Maybe there's a way we could figure it out where, it would still have the
Mhm.
conversation sound decent where we have an interpreter. I would love to try it out because I want to find out these different areas. I'm guessing airsoft is pretty much the same across the board, just
I
based
think
on who I've talked to so far.
I've only played outside the UK once, and that was in Poland, my home country.
Yeah.
And that was 2019, and I have to say I was really nervous about it. And it was slightly different because I think, I don't know, maybe it's the type of event I've signed up to, because it was quite a unique event on even on European scale. It was a over 45 hours kind of LARP Milsim event, but with a heavy emphasis on LARP, with multiple factions, with people who were not even shooting. They were basically just role play.
Oh wow.
Well, the participants, so they had reduced fees, and you could not really tell, who was who. It was
Yeah,
based on Afghanistan, so they had like multiple villages, like they really made a lot of effort to build this whole thing up, and you
that's
could
cool.
never tell who was actually going to shoot you in the back, or who was just the role play. And plus also the FPS limits are different across Europe. So over there, they were much higher, and I found that people had a longer range, which was a little bit difficult, because in the UK we have limits to, like, I think it's 1.3 joules.
Mm.
And in Poland, I don't think there is a legal limit, but organizers set them for special events. So they basically decide this is reasonable and people have to comply. But legally, there isn't any limit.
Wow. Yeah, that would hurt.
I was wondering whether that would be the case, but no, because people are, I guess maybe, well, if you play CQB in Poland, they have the same limits as in the UK,
Okay.
because it does hurt.
Closer.
But
Yeah.
if it's not CQB, there isn't any legal limit, and organizers set it to usually 450 FPS.
Gotcha.
Something like this, and people tend to be a bit further away, so I didn't find it uncomfortable. Plus, because of the nature of the event, it wasn't really, spray and pray type of place where you have people just,
Yeah.
shooting randomly. I mean, it was a very structured event with, specific tasks, a lot of role play. So I didn't find it that different, but yeah, it was different
Yeah.
in many ways.
Yeah, that's cool to see. I love those. I love seeing videos and hearing about these events that where they do that, where they have a lot of people, they have a lot of different factions or teams or whatever, or objectives, they kind of switch it up. And there's a few over here. There's one in Balahak. It's called Balahak Airsoft that actually is owned by Swamp Sniper, if you've ever seen his YouTube channel. And he's like a Navrich or, Kicking Mustang, does a lot of the sniper stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, on his field, he does once a year, he has this event. And I can't remember the name of it, but it's coming up towards the end of the year where they do a zombie event. And so they'll have all these, bystanders that are like they're zombies.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes they just kind of wander around, like they're not playing and they're just kind of like in the way,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they're, they'll try to get you and turn you into a zombie or whatever, that kind of thing. But yeah, I love to see those kind of bigger events like that where they kind of mix it up with different teams.
No, I think it's a whole adventure.
Yeah.
I would say you kind of completely forget, about, your daily life and job. You kind of get really immersed into the whole experience. I mean, that event was called Mission Afghanistan, and they do it once a year, and the whole prep takes nearly 10 months. They already
Wow.
they already cut off registration around 9 months before the event, and you actually have to be vetted. So everybody can apply to get a ticket, but you have to be. They really take care that the people that will be accepted to play have the right mindset. Because if you don't, it can ruin the experience a lot. If someone just decided to be, a jackass and just do a big skirmish or something, that's not an event for them. And I think
Wow.
it's pretty good. I mean, I was very skeptical because I just decided to apply and see how it goes. I didn't really expect to get a place because nobody knows me back there.
Yeah.
I've never, up until that time, I never had a chance to play back in Poland. So I really didn't expect to get a place, and it was really great to be given this opportunity. And I had to buy an airsoft gun in Poland because I didn't want to transport one
Oh,
of
yeah.
mine, because it's just you would need to change the spring for the higher FPS. I decided to just
Oh,
buy one,
yeah.
and I just keep it with my family. And I never had a chance to use it again after this event. Pandemic broke up, and we couldn't really travel for nearly 1 year with 2 years with breaks. So, but
Yeah.
it was definitely a good experience. I'm hoping one day I'll be able to play abroad again, maybe somewhere else. See how
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah, that's cool. Did you say it was a 45-hour event? So that
Yeah,
was that
so
like a continuous? Were they nonstop?
continuous. Yeah, so basically
Okay.
the event started before, but the before phase included basically building up like various, because I played as ISAF, which was like 300 people, I think, in the faction. I think they had
Wow.
900 people across the
Woo.
entire game. And so a lot of people came early to help build the base, the villages. We came, I think, 1 day before because
Hmm.
of coming from the UK. We had to drive
Right.
all the way. So we had to spend some time helping out with building guard towers and such, questionable construction and structure engineering. I mean,
I was gonna say because you work in that field.
I was literally like, is it going to last?
Oh shit.
No, it's like multi-story guard tower built by guys, but luckily a lot of Polish people have good background in construction because
Yeah,
the DIY
that's
is
good.
quite big in Poland, so it held. But basically we had to spend many hours prepping, and then all these briefs and all that kind of stuff, and then since game on it was 45 hours non-stop. It was just amazing.
Yeah.
I was so upset when this ended. I didn't want to leave.
Oh,
Um,
cool.
and by the end of it, the coolest thing was when it ended eventually, we were allowed to just stay for the night. There was a whole the organizer gathered everybody around the kind of safe zone area where all the admin stuff was, and they did some raffles, just a
Oh yeah.
summary of how the event went. And then we were allowed to just get our beers and party inside the game area
Oh, that's cool.
in our kit,
Oh, that's awesome.
it was pretty cool. It was great. I was very sad it ended, and
That is no, it's cool that you loved, doing that for the whole, that it was that long. You loved being in it. So
oh,
when
that's
you
right.
guys, so like overnight, like the night game stuff, how did you guys, did you figure out like who's going to stand guard while somebody sleeps?
It was really, I mean, that event was well organized. There were loads of veterans who served in
Mm,
Afghanistan, and a lot of those vets were involved in organizing the event. And actually, the vets were given even free tickets as
okay.
a kind of thank you for the service. They were allowed to take
Oh,
part
nice.
in all of this event for free whenever
Yeah.
they wanted,
Oh, that's
which was
awesome.
great because they would, share the knowledge with organizers, and they make sure that this is really, as realistic as it could be.
Mm,
It was really well organized. We were split into different platoons and sections, and everybody was given very clear instructions whose turn it is to be guarding X, who is patrolling, who's going to that village. Comms were provided at this event, something that doesn't really happen in the UK.
yeah.
A ham radio
Mm,
club. So ham radio club was providing comms for the event, and each platoon had to have one person from that club, and basically they made sure everything is 100%.
Yeah.
squared away.
That is yeah, that's just like the military.
Mm.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was impressive. I
Right.
have to say it was impressive.
Well, these guys, when they first started going to some of their first events, they went and they were like, "Oh, the next event, we need to have radios because they didn't have, whatever." And so they came back, they started buying these newer, like, smaller radios, the Baofangs or
Mhm.
whatever. And they're asking me how to set it up. And I'm like, I don't know. They're like, well, you didn't use these in the military? I'm like, bro, I was in the military in 1989. Like we were still using these giant, we had one radio guy. I didn't
Yeah.
use it, you know. So, so anyway, they figured out how to do it. But yeah, it's really cool to have these full immersion kind of
Mhm.
events where it's full on like continuous. There's a group here in the States. They're called Milsim West.
I've heard of them
Have you
a
heard of them?
lot. Or
Yep.
yeah, I mean, a lot of us into these sort of events in the UK are looking or following what's happening at Milsim West. And I mean, for me, it's a dream to be able to take part in one of these events. I think they last
Yep.
48 hours. Is that
Yeah. 40 or
correct? Yeah.
48 hours. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would love to. It's just such a logistical hassle, really. To I mean, I would need some guidance how to. I mean, I've transported airsoft guns abroad, but I
Mm,
think things like night vision. I mean, is it going to be confiscated? I
right.
don't know.
I don't
Um,
either.
so I would need somebody to give me some guidance how to organize this.
Yeah.
But I think yeah, it's I would love to one day. I mean,
You
in
know
the
who
UK.
might
Go
you
on.
know who might be good to talk to or reach out to is
Hmm.
Austin from Blue Mag,
Right.
because he's got some experience with a lot of this stuff. And he, if you heard that one, he
Hmm.
was talking about how that's one of his favorite groups to run with, or the events that they put on, because he
Yeah.
like you,
Hmm.
he likes that continuous, that full immersion, whole thing for the weekend, and you know,
Yeah. I mean, that's completely my thing, and I found that I actually play more of these sort of events throughout the year than just Sunday skirmish. I don't go to these match anymore. I used to. I mean, there's nothing wrong with them.
right?
They're good fun. But it's just when you're very busy at work and you have very limited time and resources, then you
Hmm.
have to make your pick. And I think once you start, then it's really difficult to turn back, and
Yeah.
it's really addictive. I mean, some people just, I mean, it depends, because I see people who turn up to a lot of these events, and sometimes they don't come back.
Oh, they don't ever come back. They're like, nope, this is too hard. This is too much work.
Most, I mean, it doesn't happen a lot,
Yeah.
but sometimes you get people who are quite overwhelmed or surprised, or decided, they haven't prepared themselves properly for what it is. And I think the problem is there's a lot of events in the UK, like some companies call their event a Milsim when it's not. Like, they
Right.
organize these events at their local site, and it's basically something like 24-hour skirmish. They allow for a lot of breaks, not a lot of organization, and I think this term is overused a lot.
Hmm.
And then you get people coming to one of those events, one of the reputable organizers, and then wow, like they decide when you're tired. You don't get to just say, right, I'm going to sit this one out. It doesn't work like that.
Right.
They
Yeah.
tell you when you're tired.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, I think I agree. I think there's a lot of events that are called milsims, but they're not. Because I remember when these guys first started, I didn't know anything about airsoft, when we first started the channel. And I was like, they're like, oh, yeah, we're going to a milsim. I'm like, what is that? I didn't even know what it was. And they're like, oh, a military simulation. I'm like, oh, wow, you guys are going? And because I didn't think they were really prepared for it. And they're like, yeah, this is going to be, I was like, so it's going to be like a full on just like being in the military for the weekend? And they're
Mm-hmm.
like, yeah, I think so. Well, they go, and it wasn't, it wasn't a continuous or whatever. But I was like, well, if it's what, because I saw their videos, because they would bring the GoPros back and I would edit the videos, and there's like a kid running around in like, jean shorts or jeans or whatever, and tennis shoes. And I was like, I thought it was a military simulation. Like, what? And they were like, well, they let a few other people, whatever. I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, so it's not really a milsim, like there's a lot of just kind of like one day event kind of mentality, or whatever, brought into a milsim, where they have, like you said, like they have those breaks, they have the, so there's got to be something like another word to describe those kind of like intermediate events where,
Battle sims, maybe.
yeah,
I
there you
don't
go.
know. Or just a 24-hour event. I mean, if it is meant to last that long, why not? I mean, people have used different terms for their events. I think people are quite wary how they
Yeah.
describe them, because I think, if you use certain words in your advertising, you're going to attract certain types of people.
Mm-hmm.
And we've had a funny one a few years ago when it was an event which was at MOD site, so Ministry of Defense rent training facilities to Airsoft organizers, similarly like in the US, and it was basically based on such a site, and it was advertised as hard routine milsim, and a lot of regulars have signed up, and then as soon as the briefing information started coming out, we quickly realized we got ourselves into some serious trouble. Famous with obviously I'm not going to mention the name of the organizer, but the one thing which we're still laughing about is, a burger van will be located at gate number 4. You're supposed to have food for 24 hours, but hey, there will be a burger van at gate number 4, and that was in the same sentence as this is a hard routine event. And we were like,
Yeah.
shit. And literally like, are we going to go through with it? And we did. Eventually we decided to just go anyway. And I mean, it was fun, but we basically came with a different expectation, and I think it's about your expectation. Like, if you come with, you realize it's going to be a bit of a shit show.
Yeah. For real.
Yeah, that's fine, as long as you can still have fun and laugh about it. But I can imagine some people were quite disappointed, and
yeah, that's a funny thing, because I never, like I said, I didn't know a whole lot about that until just recently, probably in the last year, with how the milsims are all different. They're not really milsims. So I think I have heard some people call the like those continuous ones, that are really strict military simulation. They're starting to call them real sims. So like realistic simulation. But I would have thought that milsim would, be sufficient if they would just stick to this is.
I think the problem is there is no real. I mean, it's not a regulated sport, so
right.
You don't really have. I mean, at least in the UK, it isn't actually a recognized sport, and you don't really
same
have.
Here.
You don't really have any, rigid rules.
Mm-mm.
So a lot of it is, unfortunately, interpretation.
I think a lot of times too, these big events, like the one we just went to last weekend, these guys, the area that they rented is very, very expensive to rent out, that field. So when they put out tickets, they need to, sell a certain amount of tickets to cover the helicopter pilot, the helicopter being there, all these vehicles, the of course, and then the site itself. And so I think that's probably where where that's drawn is they're like, hey, we got to kind of expand it out to whoever wants to come out, as long as they know the rules, and they'll have, all the rules listed on their website and everything. But I think it caters to a lot more people if they have the those breaks, like they play for 3 hours and they have, a 2 hour break.
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, we've been to an event 2 weeks ago, which was south of London in Kent, and it was exactly what I would describe as something in between, something that would appeal to a lot of players. It was basically like an event which started, I think it lasted 12 hours continuous Thursday, and then we had a break for the night, I think between 10 o'clock and then 10 next. So yeah, 12-hour
Mm,
break. Camping, socializing, like a couple of beers, and then next day there was continuation.
yeah,
And to be honest, it was still fun. It was still, we had a great time, and it was a very nice in between event for people who are not yet used to more rigid forms of gameplay. Something to kind of ease them into it.
yeah.
But I mean, you'd be surprised how many people still dropped out by day two. I mean, I was quite, yeah, because I go to a lot of, I guess, continuous events, and at many of them, it's really frowned upon when somebody doesn't last.
Yeah.
And then I went to a much lighter event, and it was like next day, like 50%, maybe 30% slipped into their cars. I was
Yep.
I was actually proud because it was just three of us coming, like from my group,
Yeah.
and we were playing with six other people. So for some of them it was the first time, and I was really proud that next morning all of us, all 9 people, turned up, unlike other groups. So I
Yeah.
think we may have done something right to incentivize people to, keep going.
Yeah. That's exactly what happened at this last event. They were I think a lot of people came and played on Saturday during the day. There was 2 sessions, phase 1 and 2 on Saturday. Then they had the third one at night. So right before the night game, all these cars started like packing up and leaving, and I was like, maybe they're going out to eat, or whatever. There's like like 10 miles down the road, there's some restaurants or
Yeah,
whatever.
McDonald's.
Yeah, right. And and my son said, no, they're leaving. Like a lot of people come to
Mhm.
these and they don't stay the whole weekend. I said, what?
But that must be really
What in the world?
expensive, a lot of
Right.
driving.
Yeah. Yeah, but they like it's a bigger event. There were 700 people at this event. And I think, guys like that, maybe they'll come out. They like that kind of experience just for the day,
Mm.
as opposed to just going to a 1 day event, like a pickup game or a skirmish kind of thing, because there's not that many people. And usually the people at the field on those skirmish kind of things are, uh, you know, you don't have the camaraderie, like the teamwork and the camaraderie that you do at some of these Milsims.
Mm.
So I think they maybe come out for that and then they head out. But there was a lot of guys when I was walking back to our tents to switch out batteries for, GoPro or whatever. There were a lot of guys that were supposed to be out there playing, and they're laying down. They got all their gear off. They played the first part. In phase 2, they didn't even go out for it. They're just kicked back, got their feet up, drinking a beer. So I think they go there for that kind of like, hey, I'm going to camp out. I'm
Yeah,
gonna play a little
yeah.
bit of airsoft, and I'm just gonna camp out.
Yeah, I think if you have your sleeping area outside the game
Yeah,
zone, that is a bit of a game changer. And we were actually talking about this because the organizer of the game that was 2 weeks ago, Sierra Bravo Airsoft, they were basically thinking, how can we incentivize people to stay in game longer? I
right.
mean, he fully, acknowledges that his event, it's not a full Milsim. It's something in between, like a battle sim, some role play, something for everybody, I guess. And he decided next time, he will make people campsite kind of in game, even if they stop the gameplay, they will make people set up their tents or, whatever they bring with them inside the game area, because even if they decide to have a lie down, they will be inside the game. So it will kind of force them into it. I mean, I'm used to sleeping in game, and I'm used to, games never stopping, and, our area getting attacked, round the clock.
Right.
So for me, it's bizarre to see that people cannot like embrace this in a way, but I have to see other people's points of view sometimes and not be just like this.
Yeah, that's well, when you get hooked on those really strict kind of milsims or whatever, they're it's hard to go back. Like if you really enjoy that, it's hard to it's not just hard to go back to the other ones, but it's hard to understand or relate to somebody that doesn't like that or doesn't want to be, all in like the whole time. I remember when I got, that's how I was when I got out of the military. I was in the Marine Corps, so it's very strict. It's a very intense lifestyle for 4 years. And when I got out, it was very hard to adjust because I'm like, people are just like laid back, like, whatever. I'm like, no, not whatever. What is it? Like, what are we doing? Very intense kind of. And I think there's a lot of people that, with airsoft, with the milsim stuff, people I've seen or talked to that like those continuous ones, like the real sims or whatever, that they're the same way. Like I think they want more people to be involved in those bigger events that are as gung-ho about it as they are, so that you have a better experience, because it's hard to play with people. From what I've seen, and I played paintball as well. It's hard to play with people on your team when you have 2 or 3 or 4 people that are just like, let's go, this is awesome, and then the rest of your team is just like, yeah, we'll get there, whatever,
Well, that's the job of a good team leader, isn't it?
Right.
It's all on management at the end of the day. I think a good team leader can motivate even the least motivated people, and then there's people that you just cannot do anything about.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I think a team leader is definitely a very important role.
Right.
In this.
Now, what do you guys got planned for? Like, what's your next big event you guys want to go to?
Well, it depends what you define as a big event. I mean, we're playing tomorrow. We're going to a battle sim by one of my favorite organizers, Legion Airsoft events, and this is at an MOD site, which is a training ground for Ministry of Defense. So it's like a Fibua village with some woodland, and it will be quite a straightforward, tan versus green game with a bit of organization, 2 factions at this time, and split into teams and squads and with command and comms and such. Nothing sophisticated, just, a bit of fun, really, no pressure. The next one after end of April, 23rd of April, Sterling Airsoft, probably the best Milsim organizer in the UK. So I'm returning to their event at Catterick, north of England. Again, it's an MOD site. It's again a Fibua village, slightly different to Longmoor that we're going to see tomorrow, and it will be a 36-hour game this time.
Oh, okay. Oh yeah, that'll be fun.
Yes, I'm really excited. Last time we played there was in January, so it's been quite a while.
Okay. Well, that is awesome. Well, listen, it's been really, really nice to meet you, Basia.
Well, it was lovely to meet you too, Eric. Thank you for having me at the podcast.
Absolutely. And congratulations on your first podcast. And it's I always have fun meeting new people, like I said, and it's great that you were able to get on here. So yeah, hopefully in the future we'll do one again. I'm always open to having people on, and if you or your partner or your teammates or whatever, if they're interested in coming on and chatting, I'm always open to new visitors or guests on our podcast.
I've got a few people in mind, so I'll let them know.
Perfect. Yes.
Okay, brilliant.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye.